Good day, dear family. I'm so grateful to God for giving us this opportunity to be able to speak to you again. We thank God for what He's doing to make sure that we have communities that are transformed, that inspire to see His kingdom be established in all different corners and sectors of our society. The topic I want to share with you today it's called Pray and Fight for Your Community. Pray and fight for your community. A few months ago, I was talking to a friend and we're talking about different challenges that they were facing in their area. And I asked the person the question at the end, do you pray for your community? And there was no answer. There was no answer. So today, some of us, we understand what is happening in our communities, but we don't tend to take time to seek God to see real transformation in our community. When we read the book of Jeremiah 29, God is very clear. He's speaking to the Israelite that he took to exile into Babylon. And he's saying to them, seek the prosperity and the peace of the city to which I've carried you. And he's saying, pray for it. Pray for that city. Because if it prosper, you also will prosper. We have seen in our previous video that our prosperity or our well-being is so connected to the well-being of our community. And when we realize that, we are called to pray to God to see the prosperity or the well-being of our community. It's like God was saying, I know what it takes to have blessed community, to have blessed cities, to have blessed nation. Do not leave me out of the equation when you want to experience prosperity or well-being of your community. Seek me, pray. God is saying to the people, pray for that city. Because if the city prosper, you too will prosper. But pray to me, speak to me about the challenges you are facing in that city. Speak to me about what you want to happen in that city, because I have the keys for the transformation of that community. I have the key for the transformation of that city or nation. I'm the one that make nation great. In Job 12, he say, he makes nation great. God is able to make our communities great. But he's asking us to speak to him about it. It's unfortunate today to see the direction that most of our communities or cities or nations are taking when it's come to consulting God or associating God in the decision that are affecting our communities. God knows what it takes to have great communities. He is the greatest healer. He knows what to do to make sure that our communities are healed. He's saying to the people of Israel in the book of 2 Chronicles 7, he said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, and turn from their wickedness or from their wicked ways, then will I, God, hear them from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their nation. Our communities are sick. Our cities, our nations are sick. Sick of all these problems, these challenges that we are facing. And we have the healer, someone that is able to heal our nations. But are we seeking him for this healing that we are inspiring? Are we consulting God to transform our society? God himself is saying, is advising us, he say, pray to me, speak to me about your community, about your city, about your nation, because I'm the one that is able to bring change, to bring real transformation in your communities. And not only we are called to pray for our communities, we are called to fight for our communities or for our cities, for our nations. Unseen powers control the physical world. Each area of control in our different nations or different cities is ruled by an unseen ruler. It's difficult for some of us to see or to understand it, but that is the reality. That unseen ruler are ruling areas in our communities. Different areas in our communities, in our societies are ruled by unseen powers or unseen rulers. You can get more about this in my book called The Real Power Beyond Crime. So the unseen rulers dictate the game from the spiritual realm, and the consequences of their rulership and decision are experienced or executed in the physical world. Things that are happening in the spiritual realm, we are experiencing them in the physical world. Because you have rulers that we cannot see with our physical eyes. We can see President Ramaphosa as ruling South Africa. But in the spiritual realm, there is another ruler that is ruling. And the truth about this is found in the book of Daniel, chapter 10. When you read that chapter, you realize that in the kingdom of Persia, there was two different types of rulers. There was the king of Persia himself, in verse 1, the king of Persia. He was the physical ruler of that kingdom. But there was another ruler, the spiritual ruler, is found in verse 13. If my mind is correct, in verse 13, is called the Prince of Persia. So you have the king of Persia as a physical ruler, and you have the Prince of Persia as the spiritual ruler. And the Bible said that Daniel prayed and fasted for 21 days for the restoration of Israel. And though the answer was given to him the very same day he prayed, but he could not get it, receive it, because the angel that was charged to go and deliver the message to Daniel was stopped by the king or the prince of Persia. And angel Michael had to come for reinforcement to make sure that the answer gets to Daniel. So when Daniel was waiting for answer, there was a spiritual fight that was taking place. That's why we are saying we need to be able to fight for our communities. Many things that we are experiencing in our communities are being discussed in the spiritual realm, are being imposed from the spiritual realm. And we need to be able to fight so that we can experience what God has in store for our communities. In my book, I made a reference of what happened to the people of Israel when the Amalekite came to fight them. If we can read a portion of it in my book, The Real Power Beyond Crime, on page 24, I say this: I always admire the position taken by Moses, one of humanity's greatest leaders, when the Israelites were attacked by the Amalekite. When people could only see the fight against the Amalekite in the natural, Moses realized that they were in the presence of a war that was taking place in two different dimensions, the natural and the supernatural. He understood the importance of engaging in the spiritual battle in order for them to overcome the physical battle that the Israelite community was facing. It's noteworthy to learn that whenever Moses could not lift up his hand in the mountain, defeat of his people on the ground was the direct consequence. When his hands were kept up, the people on the ground enjoyed progressive victory. In other words, the victory on the ground was dependent on what was happening on the mountain. Their victory had nothing to do with what the foot soldiers were able or unable to accomplish, but on what the spiritual soldiers were able to achieve on the mountain. The natural battle could only be won if the spiritual was won. In the same light, we cannot do well in the natural if we fail to do well in the spiritual. We need to stand and fight for our communities. If we want to see real change in our communities, we need to be able to stand and fight for our communities. Because there are stuff that are happening in our communities that are out of the control of our government. They cannot solve it because they don't have the power to solve it. But when we stand in the gap and fight for our communities, we'll experience restoration from the spiritual realm. And what's going to happen in the spiritual realm will have implication on what is happening in the physical realm. So I encourage you to be people that pray and fight for our communities. Pray and fight for our cities. Pray and fight for our nations. And when we pray and when we fight, we are called to be persistent. Remain persistent till you see transformation that you are all the time inspiring for your community. There's a verse in the Bible, God speaking to the people of Israel. He say in Isaiah 62 verse 6, he said, "I've posted watchmen on your walls, O Jerusalem. There will never be silent day or night. You who call on the Lord, give yourself no rest, and give him no rest till he established Jerusalem and make her the praise of the earth. We are called not only to pray and to fight for our communities, but we are called to persevere in our prayer and in our fight. May the Lord bless you, and may God help us to understand that our well-being is so connected to the well-being of our community, so that we can be able to stand and all the time seek God, seek Him to see real transformation in our communities. God bless you.